Hello to viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Future Friday, we're going to talk about myth of overpopulation. So let's dive right into it. Now, why I'm talking about myth of overpopulation? Well, here's the deal. There is a very good chance in recent times that you must have heard two data points. First, we are overpopulating. Second, there is a population collapse. So which is true? So let's understand this overpopulation. Now, this is a boogeyman. It's not real. It's not factual. It's just hulululu. It's just a complete, utter boogeyman of our stupidity and specifically stupidity of our past. I'll explain all of that further. And you have to understand the reason why we don't have the data to understand it properly simply because life was never better. For example, entirety of humanity, as far as we can go back with reliable records, life was never as good as it is today. As in, after industrial revolution, world changed. World went through exponential change. Our quality of life went exponentially better. We never had the experience of it. We never had wait a minute, you are telling me that if we had 6-7 kids, all of them is going to go to adult life? That was never the life experience of anyone who lived before industrial revolution in any place. It was never same. That's the whole thing. So what does that mean? That simply means we have to look at recent data, as in last basically 200 years and all the countries. There are 200 countries, so we have good database. So we have created a pattern. Now this pattern is what we classify 4 stage of growth. Now fifth stage is a bit optimistic, that is expansion, but let's go that in some other day. So idea is you start with poor, you have a lot of kids and you have a lot of deaths. Now these are balanced. Basically this is, you have to be like this. For example, be it some very impoverished country or Europe itself. It's not like Europe was always better. It's like now it's better, but it was horrid in 1850, and that's the whole point. They had to have, like, every woman back then had to get married early, had to have kids early, otherwise they will go poof, extinct. They had to, because mortality rate was not good enough. Like, death was like so powerful back then. So you had to have 5-6 kids, hope that at least 2 or 3 makes out, which barely happened. And outcome was your population reached a very low stability, even though everybody is popping out 6 or 7 kids. So lot of kids birth, but lot of death. So it was equilibrium. That's why population never exploded before it. So that's the starting phase. Every country starts at that point, poor part. Okay, that's normal, natural. Then we come to the growth part. Now something changed. This point you are still having kids. You are still having 5-6 kids or 7-8 kids. 8 is, I think, the highest average that ever been achieved. So that's the point. But that starts to go back. That's like loses a bit of grip. How? Again, better sanitation, better hygiene, better understanding, better, like, everything becomes a little bit better, and that slowly starts to lose its grip, specifically on children. Not on old people, but on children. It's like, whoa, I can't just grab that. So that's the growth phase. So I have specified this many times, and you need to understand this, is that never focus on population number. If somebody says like population is this many, it does not mean a much. Like, that big number can literally hide a dying nation. For example, China. So always look at these things. These are called population pyramid, and this pyramid have 2 sides, man and a woman. So if you mess this balance up, like left and right, for example, in case of India, we had bad things in past because of dowry system. We had really bad female culling. Then you had in China, same thing, but again, instead of dowry, it was one child policy, and again they pushed a lot of girls. So there was a lot of unbalance there. Now, both of those unbalance pale in comparison to what happened to Russia, specifically Soviet Union, because they started a war and they were spilling blood. Like, there were, again, dictatorship does not care like how much blood they are spilling. So men's side, they literally started to lose a little bit. Like, in whole sector, you can notice, if you flip this, it was not balanced. And of course, there would be always a little bit up and down, but it was like multiple percentage, and it's like male section was done. Then they had like 9-year war for this, I think Georgia or Chechnya, whatever, like they had that, and then they're currently Ukraine thing. So the male side is tangibly shrunk, and it will have consequences. It will have like what you call rolling consequences. So always focus on the pyramids. Never focus on the number. Oh, 10 million or 20 million means nothing. What's the population breakdown? Understand the breakdown, then you understand everything. So we start with poor, so that's why you will get this curve. You will get curve. Rather than lines, you will get curve. This curve means death is very powerful, and you have to have that much life, otherwise you will go poof. So that's the worst case scenario. That's how you start. That's how everybody was. Then we come to basically growth stage, where you figure out push death. You try to push death. It's like, hey, let's not carry children away. How about that? You push it. Then you reach the stability period, where people actually starts to understand, if you are having, let's say, 6-7 kids, most of them are actually becoming adult. That's the amazing thing. That's the first time it's happening in human history. It's like, hey, I had 6 kids, all of them grew, all of them reached adulthood. It's like, whoa, that happens. This is the time where stability starts to, basically your kid starts to slow down. Basically the first time you will have, hey, and again, not to mention, we first time in humanity have proper, very high quality birth control. So that also helps in this. So kid number goes down, and then you have lower death. Again, we push death even further. Then we reach to final stage. This is the final equilibrium where you have everything stabilized. What does that mean? That simply means birth and death is now at new equilibrium, meaning back in the day it was still the equilibrium. Again, you had to have 6, 7 to balance it out. Now you only need 2 to balance it out. Realistically 2.1. It has to be, per woman has to be 2.1 because 2 is like one bad day, one car accident, one bus accident away from collapsing your population. So it has to be 2.1. 2.1 gives you some chance that if you have an earthquake, tsunami or pandemic or disease or something like that, you can endure, your population can bounce back. Below 2, you're dead. So if you're Japan or South Korea, you're dead. So this is one of, and again, China, you're dead. That's why I said never focus on large population number. Always focus on pyramid and specifically pyramid shape. This growing, this stable, this dead. Now the ideal world would be like a 4th stage leads to 5th stage, because in 4th stage you will have the most amount of growth, most amount of basically development. Again, people are trustworthy, people are accountable, comfortable, everything is happening. It's like, we can push ourselves further. Then you will go to moon, you will go to Mars, and more population will expand to fill up those voids. Then the population will go to basically what we call stage 5. Never happened, we collapsed afterwards. So that's the 4th stage. Be mindful. And every country that is reaching in this system where they are going from agrarian culture, meaning only grow crops, survive barely, to industrial world where we have automation, technology, all that jazz, vaccines specifically, they are crossing this milestone very quickly. For example, Europe may have the head start, but they took a very long time, meaning from where they figured these things out to like, people are actually stable now, that's a very long time. Fastest countries are the recent countries one. For example, Bangladesh achieved this 1, 2, 3, 4 in 20 years. That's fast. So every country does it fast. Now, this is just the population part. That's why I specified there is no such thing as population, explosion. That does not happen because again, all you are doing is reaching equilibrium. The moment you break equilibrium, nature will poof you. So you have to reach equilibrium and you have to stay there. Now, people, you have to understand this. People have 3 phases. Now, I've simplified the mathematics. Generally, most people are supposed to live 90 years. So, what you have 0 to 30 is kid phase. You can say I will start to make money at 21. But again, generally, most of the people make very little money from 20 to 30. Is after 30, they gets into like, final gear, like full horsepower. So, 0 to 30 kid phase, adult phase 30 to 60, old phase 60 plus. Now be mindful, old phase was rare for public, rare, as in like nobody even knew that this is a thing. For kings, queens and royalties, that was always there. But for general peasants, quote unquote, that was rarely touched. At the time of India's independence itself, if you were 50 plus old, at that point, people, damn sir, you're old. Now it's like we don't, like my granny itself crossed 95. So it's a common thing nowadays to, this puppy goes to 60 to 90. An adult has to pull the weight of life basically, because you are dependent on both phase. You are dependent on kid phase, you are dependent on old phase. Who the hell takes care of both of these parts is the adult. Adults have to take care of it. And here's the old part is one of those things that people do not want to deal with it, but they know that because again, one day you will be the old one. I'm 30 years old. That means one day I'll be 60 years old. So what do I do? So this part is also something that you cannot neglect. You cannot be like CCP where you trick people to like, hey, don't worry about old people. Like again, old people are all screaming is like, bro, if you force one child policy, who the hell will take care of us? It's like CCP will take care of you. They'll go open old age home. They did all that thing. And then once kid became completely detached from their parents, once they are completely stuck in their city life, they poofed all the private system basically, lolled it. So that is a very brutal thing. You have to understand. You have to have a plan for this because we nowadays live very long time. 60 to 90 is the 30 years of your life. So it's something that you have to account for properly. It's like what I'm going to do or what society in large is going to do. So that's why I specified population is never a number. Always pay attention to this graph, and this graph will always equalize where you have life and death balancing out. It will never have like, oh, too much life or too much death. It's never happen. Again, it could have too much death, but that's extinction. So these are the 4 stages of population. Then we come to the overreaction part of it. Now, how the heck people became so stupid that they overreacted to it? Because few things happened. First thing is bad and misguided people. Misguided like, let's say, Bill Gates, and bad people as in like, I'm not even going to take their names. Like this woman in India's prime minister, she did force sterilization of Hindus. I'm not even talking 1 or 2, lakhs and lakhs. And again, that number at India's current context does not mean much, but back then, and not to mention, if you look at the basically population pyramid, they puffed off very large section, not a little bit, very large section. So many bad people and misguided people use this as catch-all. Basically, why do we have this? Because overpopulation. Why do we have this? Overpopulation. Why do we have this? Overpopulation. Everything was overpopulation. They made it is what we call in Hindi, Rampant. Basically, it's like every problem will be solved if we can just solve this. It's like, No, that's not how it works. Flat out, that's not how it works. And here's the, this also gets pushed, like, it gets suggested, it gets what you call, correct word would be for, like, supported by the hate of other and hate of poor people. Now, what does that mean? That's simply hate of other people. Yes, there are cultures. And are there all cultures good? Hell no. That cannot happen. Like, if you have 100 people, not 100 people will be good. That's law. That's law. So, you have some good culture, you have some bad culture. That's life. That's normal. That's like basic. Now, here's the deal. Many times people, if they, like, especially in European people, because they reached that fourth stage of population, they were looking from an ecosystem where it was completely stable. When they looked at India, when they looked at Africa, they looked down on it. It's like, dude, Eve. It's like they forgot that they were there. It was like just, hey, you lucked out early. Other than that, there is nothing more to you. So they created a hatred of what we classify as other. It's like, we are superior, everybody else is bad. Now, again, there are some bad, but you have to be filtering. It's like, hey, this good, this good, this good, this no, this good. Rather than that, it's like everybody other than me is bad. This is what we call hate of other. So that hate of other also is like, oh, they are causing problem. They, other. Now, again, select whichever country you want to select. Select a religion. Inside that religion, you can have two camps, and these two camps will be going like this. Simply because the hate of other. That's how brutal that is. And then poor people is like, oh, poor people are doing this. Like, oh my God, the amount of time. Like, even Bill Gates is like, India, I saw the slums in India. I'm like, bro, your single carbon footprint is 10 times larger than entirety of Delhi. So it's one of those things that you have to understand. There's hatred, and like, hatred also is kind of fueled it. There's like, oh, overpopulation is the problem. It never was the problem. And then we come to the modern virus. This is old virus, this is new virus. Green activist. Basically, even they are like, oh, population is the problem. And that's why I specified. Even though you can go to a Europe, you can look at a country that has tiny population, you're like, there are two people, they're like, husband and wife, they have 2 kids, everything is awesome. But here's the, their energy consumption and their CO2 emission would be exponentially more than 5 families of India. They are causing more pollution than Indians, per head wise, and grand total also. So that's the whole thing. They don't know anything. And again, I genuinely don't get it how the heck a kid is allowed. Like, she does not even have Guinness Book of the World Record. Like, if they were selecting a dude who's like, oh, I'm 12 years old, I built a fusion reactor in my house, that's something. There is a 14-year-old kid who built a machine that removes plastic out of the water, something. But, so this is one thing. Modern activists is like, population is the problem. It never was, nor it ever will be population. Because every person who's saying overpopulation forgot history. And I'm not talking 10,000 years ago. I'm talking from 1800, goddammit. I'm talking from 1927. It's like, look at the population. And here's the, why did population did not grow? We had so many kids because we had poverty. And what changed? Poverty went down. Because here's the, there is starvation on this planet. Again, what does starvation mean? Back in the day, starvation means people are not living. What does starvation means? They are not having good meals, meaning instead of eating 3 times a day, they are barely eating 2 times a day. Instead of eating 2 times a day, they are barely getting 1 time a meal. Again, to survive, you need food. Food is not optional. It's not like, oh, I'm starving. How long have you been starving? Oh, for 35 years. That's not how it works. You go up if you do not, starve for too long. And that's why our population exploded, because we also take care of that bottom part. Again, have we removed it perfectly? Hell no. But have we made it exponentially better than it used to be? Undeniably. And I'm talking from India. So, and I've seen it. Like, I'm 30 years old. I remember what kind of poverty we used to be. Like, what kind of poverty we have right now. It's completely different. So you can notice, like, from 1800, and that's why our population exploded, because again, the bottom was not falling off. We fixed that. Have we solved everything? Hell no. But have we made it exponentially better than we used to? Undeniably. And here's the, every time somebody was like, oh, this will happen if we cross this many, if this will cross this many, it's like, no. All those uncrossable lines, we have crossed it so many times, it's funny. It's like, imagine going into 1927, 2 billion people, and talking to them. And it's like, bro, we're gonna have 8 billion. It's like, dude, what are you smoking? We cannot cross 3 billion. We crossed 3 billion. And like, you cannot cross 4 billion. We crossed 4 billion. You cannot cross 5 billion. We crossed 5 billion. You cannot cross 6 billion. We crossed 6 billion. We cannot cross 7 billion. We crossed 7 billion. By the way, if you actually calculate the mathematically how much people can be comfortably put in Earth, it's around 50 billion. After that, our body heat itself will become the issue, because again, we are at 100 watt of body heat. Like, Earth does have a maximum radiation capacity that it cannot dump more heat than that. So there is a limit there, but it's very far off. Very, very far off. We are like not even close to that. Like, we are missing a few zeros to reach that point. So that's why it was overreaction. And this overreaction created what we call a population collapse. Meaning every woman, instead of being at 2.5 or 2.1, dropped below 2. Below 2 is extinction. Like it's not optional, it's extinction. And that's why I said pyramid is a mathematical drum. It's not like, oh, how can you say that? No, it's said. It's like if you plant a tree of mango, you are gonna get mango, you're not gonna get coconut. That's law, physics, done. So same thing. Or that's the overreaction out of it. Nobody understood like our own history, that we are awesome people. Like back in the days of India, when it got independence, back in the day, our population was 33 crore to 50 crore. Just focus on that number. Now we are at around 150 crore. From 30-ish to 150. How the heck that happened? India did not have an issue? Absolutely we had issue. We had Harit Kranti, Shwet Kranti, like green revolution, white revolution, milk basically revolution. Milk revolution, like we turbocharged our agriculture to feed this many people. Have we succeeded? I am here, aren't I? So that's the scene. That overreaction is like overpopulation. It's like, have you looked at a history? And I'm talking Indian history, for crying out loud. Like European and all that, just let it go. Talking about Indian history. So that's the whole reaction. There is no point where it's like, oh, we cannot cross this. We will cross it. Again, if we want to, we can cross it and we can truly grow further than that and be like, look at our past and be like, they thought they could not feed 10 billion. Tomorrow people, that's what we should be. Tomorrow people should be like, oh, look at them. They were laughing, like they were having a hard time feeding 10 billion people. We are feeding 55 billion people, bitches. That's what's supposed to be. That's what happened. Somehow we had this overreaction phase. I really hate this. So we come to the economics part, and this is the primary reason. Collapsing population is not good for you. Many times it's like, oh, that's good, we have left few people. Nah. That's apocalypse level. Why? Everything runs on economics. That's one thing, right? And here's the deal. Kid phase and old phase both require somebody in adult phase to take care of them. That's absolute. It cannot change. That's right. We all agree on that. Then we come to the fact that people only pay taxes in 30 to 60. Of course, somebody is like, oh, 20 years and all that. Again, just focus on that. So that taxes. If you do not have workers, meaning people are in that phase 30 to 60 year, you have worker shortage. What does that mean? That simply means you have production shortage also. If there are not workers, what the hell they're gonna do? Like even an automated factory does require people. Even a service sector, meaning your banking sector, your call center sector, or hospital industry, all of those have workers. If there are not workers, what will be the cost of it? It will go up exponentially. You will not be able to afford basic thing that in large population you are like, bro, who cares? In tiny population you're like, dude, what the hell? What do you mean a dentist is costing like $50,000? Again, you have worker shortage, that will happen. Like this is also happening in USA, where they're like, trades people are going down in number and nobody gave a damn about, oh, trade people, who cares? Now people are like, wait a minute, carpenter is what? And carpenters are like, money. So that's one thing. You have to understand, shortage is always leads to price hike. And all monetary system will fail. For example, many times people hate the idea of that we are using what we call fiat currency. Basically, it's running on faith. Fun fact, if you put it on gold, it's still faith. Why? What's the value of gold? Nothing. Like, can you eat gold? No. What the first thing you will do if you have gold? Spend it. Of course, you may say, I'll invest it, but what's the first thing you did? You spend it. Like if you're in desert, what do you value? Gold or water? Water. What do you value in winter in Africa or Europe? Heat or gold? Heat. That's the same thing. Gold only has value as long as we put the value on it. If you're like, hey, we're gonna trade on gold, awesome. If you're like, hey, we're gonna trade on energy, why do we say black gold? That's the reason. So all monetary system relies on faith. That's why look at any currency on this planet, it will always have some line saying something like, we trust. There is always the word trust there, always. Faith, trust has to be there. Now, who will pay for it? Like SD, who will pay for it? Because again, you just chopped off this 30 to 60 people. Like again, even if you reduce their number just by a little bit, again, even if you're shrinking the kid sector, but you're not shrinking the old sector, who will pay for it? Where the heck the money will come out of it? Like money, where the heck money will be generated? Because money generator, you just cut them half. Again, even if you do not have load of child, you do have load of old people. And not to mention child do generate money indirectly. For example, schools. If you half the schools, the teachers get unemployed. You half the colleges, those people get unemployed. You turn off majority of entertainment industry, people get laid off. So literally you are cutting off very large sections of economics. You are hampering basically your working population. So what, you're gonna tax more than 50% to every individual? They're not gonna work if you do that. So that's the whole thing. Who will pay for it? And many large-scale projects, national level projects, are done on what we classify as infrastructure loan. Basically, flyovers, highway, bullet train, all that jazz. Again, this is India's bullet train interaction with Japan. Many of them have contracts that are 50 years old, meaning you build a bridge, you put a toll booth on it. But how long the toll booth supposed to make money? For many long time, ideally around 100 years, let's just say. And it's supposed to return your investment in 30 years. But if they look at it, like whoever the monetary fund is, look at it and it's like, hey, your country does not have enough population. Who will pay the toll? They will not invest in it. And these things require free running money to even keep them maintained. I'm not even talking about new things. Just to maintain them, it takes insane amount of money. And even if you're like, okay, users will go down, so it will last longer. No, time does not care. You have to maintain them periodically, otherwise time would have destroyed it. So where will you get that? Because be mindful, low birth rate equals auto default, meaning everybody knows that there is no point investing in Japan at this point in time. Because if you invest in it and you are not seeing, like, of course, some people have faith, hey, maybe they'll fix their birth rate. Most people who know biology know they cannot, but let's say you put on feather. But what happens when they default? Again, they do not have enough children, they cannot tax too much. What the hell are they going to do? This is one thing. That's why low birth rate equals default, auto default. For example, South Korea. How the heck they're going to pay off a 50-year loan? How? Anything. And again, even from their point of view, it's like these 50, let's say year 2022, they only had almost 1 lakh people, like 100k kids. That's very little for a country, very little. Now this 100k will slowly step up. Now if, let's say next year, as in 2023, this year, they have less than that, that fundamentally means they have reached a terminal phase, and every school literally has to shrink. Every entertainment industry has to shrink. All these things will shrink, and they will slowly go up to the middle, basically the phase of adult life. What the hell? What then? Like, who will pay for it? And there will be very few people, worker shortage. So economics will not work, because economics relies on faith. It relies on there being a tomorrow. If there is no tomorrow, because you do not have any kid to worry about, you do not have anything to be like, hey, you're going to take care of me in my old age. It's like, and you are looking down a shrinking pool of people. That's not a good place. You will never invest on something like, oh, let's invest on roads. They're like, dude, who's going to drive it? That's why economics relies on a future being there. If there is no future, bad things happen, like really, really bad thing. And be mindful, only adults take care of everything else. If we reduce the number of adults, everything falls apart. That's from economic side of it. Then we come to another short-term thinking people do. It's like automate. We can automate everything. Yes, you can't just automate life away. That's the first thing. And that's why I specified, if you do not have children, let's say you reduce the number of children so much that even Disney park that is full right now no longer gets enough throughput, what the heck is going to happen to Disney? Like, again, every theater starts to shrink, every entertainment system starts to shrink, brick by brick, every gaming system starts to shrink. Then what? That's why economics will not work in that. Then we come to automation. You cannot automate life away. And then we come to the weird aspect that people don't understand, is that automation only works on scale. Meaning, if you are, for example, I make thumbnails, right? So I created a tiny script that allows me to put date on it. So every thumbnail, instead of putting name, I just put a current date, which date I'm making it. If I only had to do this once, I'm only gonna do it once manually. But if I have to do it every day, which I do, I created a script for it. Same thing goes with every company. If they have to do something again and again and again, they create a tool for it to automate it. Same goes with a car. Same goes with everything. For example, the car factory. These robots you are seeing, each of these robots are more expensive than the car, total car. Then why the heck they are building cars? Here still they are building hundreds and thousands of cars. Sometimes 1 car per minute kind of being built. At that point in time, they make financial sense. But if you like, hey, there is not enough population, who the hell is going to buy that much car? So what if we just reduce the output? Here's the deal, price goes up. Now you cannot afford it. And that's why the things that are not mass produced, they are very expensive. For example, Lamborghinis are very expensive. Ferraris are expensive. Rolls Royce are very expensive. And again, none of them are very profitable. Who is profitable? Honda. Why? Mass production. That's the another aspect. Automation does not work on small scale. Automation only works on large scale. And factory also is the same thing. For example, Tesla is like, we're going to build gigafactory. Awesome. Imagine a world where they build a gigafactory and there is no demand for electric cars. What the hell happens to them? It collapses. It becomes a debt for them. Same thing for everything you see. For example, automated warehouse. Why the heck this warehouse works? Because there is demand, because there is a lot of children, there is a lot of families, they are consuming a lot of goods that Amazon is shipping around, so they are automating their warehouse. How the heck they're going to automate a warehouse if only 50,000-60,000 people buy? It's just not worth it. Not flat out not worth it. So this is one thing you have to understand. This is a very good economics demonstration, basically economy of scale. So if you ask somebody to ship you something, let's say 10 of something, it takes you, let's say $2 per unit. So some bigger store than you will order 50. Now here's the deal. Because they used a bigger vehicle, the cost per unit went down. So it went 1.5 per unit. Okay, awesome. Now what if mega chain bought this? 100. Now they dropped the price to 1. That's the same thing, economy of scale. Consequence, you have to buy 100. Now here's the deal. Every company, every corporation, every automation relies on that 100. If you cannot have 100 if you do not have population, who's going to buy the damn thing? Who's going to pay for it? It's like, oh, we are building like, this theme park that is completely automated. Where will you get the money for it? Like if you have hundreds of a theme park, then you can automate it, because again, hundreds of theme park, you are building one tool and you're going to replicate it multiple times. Awesome. But if there is only one or two theme parks, what's the point of automation? Again, you can automate for the hell of it, but it will increase the ticket price. At that point in time, who will come? Like you already have a reduced pool, who will come? Then we come to the brutal aspect of it. Competition needs large demand. For example, many times I was shocked like how few carriers, like mobile phone carriers, are there in USA and Europe specifically. I was like, damn, you only have one or two options, like realistically, damn. Like I'm talking about from India's point of view, we have fiber. What kind of fiber? I'm poor person, so I only get like 300 Mbps fiber, 3.2 terabyte up and down. That's what I get. And again, that was not the case. Geo fiber, when it came, it was not that good. But again, there was a competition because again, such a large market pool, another company took a risk, Airtel. Benefit, both of them cost competed. Now, both of us get amazing internet. In India, majority of the places, if you have good railway, good airports and all that jazz, there is a very good chance you're gonna have amazing fiber internet to your home. And if you're willing to pay, you can even get to basically 1 Gbps. And not to mention, if you convert from dollar to gigabyte, it's cheaper than most places. Again, why did that happen? Large population, large demand. Same thing happened with mobile carriers. We have so many mobile providers. And why do we have that? Large population. So there's like even a small chunk of a giant population means a lot. But if you already have a tiny population, who's going to bother with it? That's the whole thing. So if South Korean car companies starts to build cars, the first thing they're going to do, even if they are building in South Korea, is like sell it abroad. Figure out how the heck you're going to ship it to abroad. There is not enough demand. They will know this. They will know it before I do, that there is not something like that. And here's the old age care technology is not fun. It's like, think about this, like what do you gonna talk to a children? It's like, children is gonna be like, I want to build to go to Mars. It's like, no, sir. We have no need for astronaut. We need people to build robots for our old age. Think about that. Like that's what we have to do if we keep shrinking our child population. Basically, if woman number goes below 2, old age technology is not fun. Like again, there is an aspect of our life that we like to develop. It's like, hey, what if we make, this tool that helps us medical cares? Awesome. Why? Because what do we think? Like if you are building a ventilator, what do you think? It's going to help somebody fight off and then it's going to survive. But when that ventilator goes to old age person, that's a very different kind of feeling. You're going to have a different kind of feeling because you are seeing death walk slowly. There is a saying about death. It's like, you will run, it will not. You will stop, it will not. So death is one of those things that it slowly comes and it will always win. Watching that happen in slow motion is creepy. It's soul crushing. And here's the deal, all you are will be at that point in time, once you reach that population collapse, that pyramid goes instead of this is like end of life tool. That's all you are doing. Every factory, every college, every university slowly starts to decay away. Because again, they do not have enough money, they cannot increase the charge, nobody will buy it. So that's why automation is not the solution. We're going to automate it. It's like, you can't. Flat out you can't. An economy of scale flat out limits you from that. And that's why we never had it. Be mindful. We had tiny population. It was not awesome. The reason we have awesome life today is because of large scale. Then we come to the tragic part of it. Tragic part is like back in the days, we always had a very simple philosophy. It's like, what happens to London? Everybody is pissing on the river. It's like, okay, let's solve it. It's a problem. It's a real problem. Like the whole Thames River was a sewage. They solved it. Same with India. We have growing population. What the hell are we going to do? We're going to solve it. We solved it. So somehow from that sort of mindset, solving problems, we literally went to, it's like, what if we don't have the problem? It's like, what? What if we don't have humans itself, It's like, what the hell? It's like, what's the point of this? What's the point of this? That's no point. It's like, instead of like solving hard problems, we are like, let's seek easy solution. Here's the, this problem is so bad that if you ask me what is the probability of solving global warming, I'm like, in 50 years, it will be a past tense. Like same way we fixed our ozone hole, same way we fixed many toxification, many issues. We solved many of the issues. We're going to solve global warming. It's a slow process because again, we messed up for a long time. It's going to take a long time to solve it, but we will solve it. I can see it. I can perceive it directly, financially. This, I can't. This is like, if people itself start to like, hey, what if I out, It's like, what the hell? And here's the deal. This is the one thing that our ancestors understood quite well, is that nothing matters if there is no one to see it. For example, you can say like, I'm an amazing singer. It's like, have anybody heard of you? No. Then what's the point? And how do you even know that you are good? There is a reason we say beauty is in the eye of beholder. If nobody is watching your painting, nobody is watching your work, what's the point of it? And same goes with career and wealth. You can have a most amazing career. Well, is it worth anything? Is it worth anything? Because here's the deal, when you are young and powerful, everything is awesome. But here's the deal, you get old. You get old. At that point in time, things change. It's like, I'm working 24 into 7 into 365 just so I can die. And I have nothing for it. Because here's the money means nothing. I specified, money means nothing unless you have someone to spend it on. Like again, 20 to 30, because again, you are coming from a dependency phase, so it feels awesome to spend money on yourself. But specifically for men, it gets boring very quickly. It's like, you will notice that many men is like, rich men I'm talking, like they're like 1 or 2 pant shirt and it's like, yeah bro, I'm done. Like you will find that. Because again, career and wealth supposed to be in support of family. And be mindful, I've specified, we had bad history. Basically, we had brutal things. We had wars, continuous war, 24 into 7 into 365 wars. We had survived all of that. We have survived famine. We have survived drought. We have survived things that we could not even imagine. And disease outbreaks that defy comprehension. We had all of that. Somehow we survived. What was the core difference compared to then, compared to now? It was family unit. Back in the days, we had family unit. Now we do not. So that's why like this whole obsession with career and wealth means nothing. It's like you're making boatload of money. For whom? Like I'm making money for myself. It's like, really? That's pointless. Like flat out, that's pointless. You are getting out of bed, working your ass off just so you can get back into a better bed. Like think about it. That's what you're doing. If you're like, hey, I'm taking care of my family, I'm taking care of like even a dog, like that matters. But if you do not have anything, like no kids, no family, it's like, what's the point? Like we realize like back in the days we knew it. It's like, oh, I have Ferrari and Lamborghini. It's like, what's the point? For whom? Like if there is no, like again, you may think you're gonna enjoy it, but you won't. You won't. Especially if you do not have a good family unit, you're not gonna enjoy it. And then this is the most brutal aspect of it. It's a creeping disaster. What does that mean? That's droughts are always classified as creeping disaster, meaning they never happen on oops. It's not like earthquake where it's like bam. It's like always slowly creeps on you, slowly. Like water level will never go from here to here like this. It will always go. Like you will notice it. Like it will be noticeable, but it will be so slow that nobody will raise the alarm. Like, then it becomes the new normal. New normal. New normal. Nobody's like, hey, wait a minute, bro, it dropped too much. The people who did raise alarm, like, oh, dude, you're freaking out. We're gonna have good rain and all that. It's like slowly, brick by brick, day by day, year by year. By the time a decade is out, bam, drought. So this is what we call creeping disaster. Same thing is happening here. This population growth, as fact this pyramid is shrink like this, everybody's like, how do you know the future? It's like, it's a fixed thing. It can't be undone. Like if the fact that they only had 100k children in basically roughly that kind of number in South Korea last year, that's a fixed thing. It's not gonna change. It's not gonna be like those kids when they grow up magically is gonna like, self-mutate and have 2 of them. That's not gonna happen. That's a fixed thing. That's why even if there is a slow time period of it. That's why we classify every generation as one 30-year slot. So that generation is done. It's gone. It's a creeping disaster. We can see it coming. Like people were noticing it. Like be it Japan, be it South Korea, be it majority of Europe, all of Europe, all of free nations. They were noticing it. It's like nobody took care of it. It's like, and by the time we reach a point where we reach the final scary phase, empty school are far more scary. Like you were like, oh, graveyard. Nobody cares. Nobody is scared of a graveyard. But if I send you a school like this, like which is from Japan, or a maternity ward from Japan, you will be scared. Like, what the hell is this? That's why these are not from Chernobyl. So this is one thing you have to understand. We are used to like life, death, both making love to each other. That's the part of it. But if you have too little life, that is like slowly creeps in. And this is the fact. What do you expect about school? Livelihood. So what happened in Japan? Again, they had dumb policies. And again, I specified like, there could be more than one truth, but the fact is, if I narrowed things down, like what is my final nail, like this is the reason why the thing happened, is generally judiciary body of all these nations which have fraternity crisis, they added a poison to marriage system through law system. India is also doing it right now, and once this is done, again, this is happening right now as I'm making this video, next 20 years, as in like 2043, people are like, India is not as it used to be, we have some issues, and 40 years from that point, it's like, yeah, we did. So that's why I specified. Basically, empty school systems are far scarier. And again, this happens in periphery. Basically, first when in 2000, I think 5 or 6, I kind of came aware of it. With sex crisis, that's why they started it. Like back in 2010, like a lot of people were talking about it. So their villages were going poof, done, nobody alive, poof, poof, poof. Villages were going. Now they reached into small towns, poof, poof, poof. Multiple small towns went poof. And that's why, like, you recently must have heard the news that Japanese government is paying a lot of money for Japanese people to get away from Tokyo. Again, they show you Tokyo have so much concentration, it feels like, oh, they are alive, they are well, they're awesome. No, they died long ago. So that's the whole thing. There should not be a maternity ward. Never ever this should happen. Like again, Chernobyl, I get it. What the hell? And the reason why I specified I can fix global warming but not this is because women's fertility window is very tight. It's not like, you can have kids whenever you want. Again, even if men are losing their edge, you can still repopulate with few men. That's all you need. But when you're talking about women, it's like, dude, that's an actual factual thing. Can you push it beyond 25? No. You can try, and there are 10,000 medical companies that are trying to exploit money out of you. They will allow you, oh, you can do this, and it's like, they will never tell you the failure rate of it, or the fact that how many kids suffer from serious illnesses if that is tried. And not to mention, best case scenario is 1. You need a 2.1. So that's the reality of it. So that's why once that window is over, that's why I specified, once that Korean woman who are in the fertility window right now decides to not have kids, they get out of the fertility window. The end. They're not gonna magically become fertile and magically have kids again. So, and it also puts ungodly amount of stress on living people, basically the people who are alive, the young generation. Same happened in Japan, same happened in, like, even in India, like so much stress on the one child happens. The same happened in basically China also. Why they are so brutal about child policy, basically, one child's education. It's like they have no other option. Like back in the day, my father's kid time is like, bro, you're good in studies, awesome. You're not good in studies, well, no problem, you're gonna sort something out. Nowadays it's like you have to be. It's like, you are not that smart. How the heck I'm supposed to be that smart? This is the whole thing. And you can see that current generation children, when they are looking at their TikTok, you can look at their Instagram, they have given up on life. And again, it's ununderstandable to me, someone who's 30 years, but from their point of view, I get it. If you live in that kind of world, I get it. You've never seen a successful family, you don't even have brothers and sisters. I get it. And this creates a weak, very, very weak mind solution, because again, you are isolated. Like, psychological damage of isolation is brutal, and we are exposing every child to it. So very, very bad thing. So this was my presentation on overpopulation myth. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it among your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment, because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.